on the News Channel 5 network. This is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Race relations.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here on a Tuesday. We've got a good show on tap. We're going to get into some important issues right now in the community here, Middle Tennessee, Nashville specifically, with what's been making headlines over the last few days. And you may have heard just as we came on the show, I was talking to my guest here. He said, let's talk about race relations. That's part of what we're going to talk about, as well as the escalating violent crime in our community. Everything from, you know, the arrests and everything that's happened over the past 24 hours in regard to that string of shootings and carjackings and fatalities. We're also going to cover today questions and comments you have along with our guest about the officer-involved shooting and the controversy and the issues around that. Invite you to join in the conversation as we get the perspective from one of our well-respected community leaders here in Nashville, and that would be Reverend Enoch Fuzz.
Good morning.
Corinthian Missionary Baptist Church here in town. Thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I guess you're running out of guests. Doing this show every day?
No, we have plenty of guests. But you call in quite often, and you know you're someone we like to have on when you want to come on to talk about these issues. By the way, we're not just going to take phone calls here. We're also streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com if you want to send comments to us there. But let's get started with one of the reasons why you wanted to come on today. And I know in preparation for this, you were busy yesterday. You actually went and met with Chief Anderson here in Metro and some law enforcement officers.
And the district attorney. I've talked to these people face to face.
Open dialogue
there.
Get
an understanding of what everyone thinks. Then we spent a whole week of having a prayer session. So we got to hear from people all over the city, black, white, male, female. And a lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are disturbed. Now there are people on all sides, but people who come to me are very concerned. About, and be specific here because we have a lot going on.
The officer-involved shooting, the escalating violence. What do you want to hit on first?
Okay, let's look at the officer-involved shooting. I saw several, there were like 4 white women who came by the prayer meeting.
Okay.
And they were crying. There were tears in their eyes because they'd seen the video. There was a former city councilman who called me. He was crying, boo-hooing like a little kid who had been, I don't know, he was just, it was
this
just hurting.
After they saw the video?
Yes, it was right after they saw the video of that police shooting. Then I saw the people responding about what FOP said, about what the chief said, about what the mayor said, all different sides of that. I said, wow, our city is just going in all different directions. Then I hear people talking about race relations and the police. They want to say the police are racist. I got to tell you, listen, there are 1,500 police officers. They're not all racist. Then the other part is that all the people out here in all of Nashville who say, I'm not a racist, you don't know that. Have you gone to a doctor? You're self-diagnosing yourself to say that I'm not a racist. So last week I took a group of people, there were about 20 people in the room, half and half, well, maybe about 12 were black and 8 were white. This is the question I asked them. To the blacks I said, how many of you have had a white person in your house over the past 30 days? And to the whites I asked, how many of you have had a African-American person in your home over the past 30 days? As they thought about that, I saw them self-condemning themselves, thinking that they were racist because they hadn't had anybody in their house. That's not what makes you racist. So I say again, the racism thing is a complicated question. And you don't need to diagnose yourself. You need to really study that. I've gone to lots of race relations study circles, and people, that's an issue that one guy says only God is going to cure that.
Well, with regard to whether or not that example you just gave me, race should be an issue or not, plenty of people have called into this show that say that officer-involved shooting is not a race issue. There are people that say that. They say, why does it matter, Nick, why do you, or why would you report or mention in your news story that the officer who shot the individual was white and the individual who shot was black? Is that part of the story? And they don't see that. For a lot of people, they say, it's very simple. Just don't run for a police officer. I don't see a racial component here. And we don't know what the DA is going to come up with, but what do you say to that?
Very simple, don't run from a police officer. Very simple, simpler than that. Let's not kill people. I'm going to say this. I was told by Chief Anderson a couple of years ago, and by the way, he's a smart person. I always say it doesn't matter who the chief is, it matters who the chief works for. The chief should do what his boss tells him to do. So, it's not, Chief had told me that in Nashville he trains his officers not to use deadly force, and gave me the example of 2 officers who were fired because they opened fire on a guy who was trying to run him over with his car. And then a few months later, the Jacquees Clemens incident happened, and now this incident happens. And when people say this guy, race was not involved, I'd like to see the psychiatrist and psychologist report on that. Like police always say, you can't tell from the tape. You got to look at the tape. But you're quick to analyze everything else. I just saw two policemen who were given an award for saving some people from a burning fire. I wondered, did that video go through that kind of scrutiny that this one did?
Do you think it might have been different had the individual running not been Daniel Hambrick, was Caucasian?
I've seen cases where that happened. The other part is we got to look at this from race too. People don't think of this. There are more whites killed by police than blacks. That doesn't take away from the fact that you all not kill anybody. But the number of whites killed is like 62%. The number of blacks is like 42%. But blacks make up like 14% of the population, whereas whites make up.
The ratio is a much higher ratio of blacks being shot.
That's right. It's like 2.5 times more likely that if you're black, you're going to be shot by police. Now, those are statistics from, I can't remember the sources, but they're good sources.
You're correct on that, right.
So it's more likely that if you're black, you'll be shot, pulled over, or harassed by police. And we need to deal with that. Police ought to be professionals.
Is that why you would say to some who are, saying, all you have to do is not run? What is it maybe that someone says that doesn't understand about maybe the black experience if they're being pulled over by an officer?
People are going to run because they're doing something wrong.
Okay.
They don't want to get caught. I don't want to speculate, but if this kid had a rap sheet and you got a gun, boy, you go to jail for a long time. All right? Right. So they run. But running should not be a capital offense. Okay. The other part is when you're shooting like that, I'm hearing from this story that only some of those bullets did not go into Mr. Hambrick. So what about the people in the community, in the neighborhood? Where do those bullets go? And I didn't see an instance where this was not a person that could not have been apprehended at another time without endangering lives in the community. When they talk about that he might have taken a hostage or did something else, that random shooting, and especially with police admitting, because I'm asking them, why don't you shoot him in the leg? And they say it's too hard to do. You can't aim good. Your aim goes down. So you're just going to shoot in the community? Who could be there? So my wish for Nashville is that we would do away with having to kill people.
You've met with both the chief and the DA since that video was released?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so do you have any sense that you can share with us of any kind of timetable or what's happening right now with regard to the investigation and when we might know whether or not charges will be filed or any more information's released?
The DA says 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. I said, Aaron, are you slow? What takes you that long to watch a movie? Come on, but
there's more to it than just the video. Even you said that. I mean, the video doesn't always show everything. And I don't know. There was another individual in the car with Hambrick who ran. I don't even know if he's come forward or been found yet to talk. But so 2 to 3 weeks. And what about Chief Anderson? What has he told you?
Chief Anderson's take is that he's wanting to defend his officers. Okay. And he's always done that. And that's a police culture. They defend those officers. It's only been maybe one time that we can think of off the top of my head where an officer actually went to jail for using this type of deadly force. But when people saw videos of those incidences, most people felt like that was not professional. See, I like policemen to be like Batman and Robin. They never kill their people. They always capture them.
Sometimes, though, deadly force is required. And that's the subjective thing. And police law enforcement work is more dangerous than ever before. It doesn't excuse it when it's out of control, but sometimes deadly force needs to be used.
Yeah,
right.
the two most recent here in Nashville.
You're saying no.
What people are seeing, no.
Okay.
That should not have happened.
Let's take a break on that note. When we come back, we have some phone calls for you. We're not just going to talk about the officer-involved shooting. I'd also like to get your thoughts on what we've seen over the last week and a half with some of these shootings and the fatalities and the two individuals that turned themselves in or were taken into custody last night. The number is 737-7587. If you're on hold, stay there. And you can message us, too, on Facebook at newschannel5.com. Reverend Enoch Fuzz, more on an important topic here in the community, escalating violence in Nashville, what it all means. We'll be back right after this.
No child